Hi everyone, just to let you know, the Men in Black do exist, and I have an experience with the Men in Black. Basically, I came across this video online, and it was about a movie, or no, not a movie, a TV series that was going to come out, okay? And it was about UFOs, and basically they were revealing a lot of secrets with the whole UFO and the whole thing of aliens working together with humans and these little secret societies, such as the Men in Black, and that's what the series was about. And then all of a sudden, this actor, I forget his name, but he's a very famous actor. He's like a comedian or something like that. Man, I know his name. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I just can't say it. But basically, he saw, okay, basically what happened is, for some reason, out of the blue, they were really on the verge, I guess, releasing this series or something like that, and then that the next day or something, they cut the series, meaning they did I think they did like all of these episodes or something like that, and then all of a sudden he got a notification that it's off. It's been canceled. And he was like, what? This is really odd. Very, very odd. Because there was no legitimate reason for why it was canceled. It was just like, oh, it was just canceled. And then he said in this little video that he saw these beings, okay, like Men in Black with the black suit and the black hat, and they were in like a black Escalade or something like that. And he saw them, and he said they were just driving by or something like that, but he just had this weirdest feeling that he can't even describe. So basically, I watched that video, and I was very intrigued by it. I felt like I was meant to find that video. I don't know why, because I randomly found I was just scrolling through YouTube videos on like Mayans and then Lemuria and then Atlantis, and I was just kind of looking all over at just, cool stuff, cool stuff, and I just happened to come across that, and I posted on Facebook, and then I started really thinking about the Men in Black. I started thinking about them and who are they and do they really exist? And I started getting these like feelings of that the Men in Black, they can pick up your thoughts, they work through telepathic communication, and then I started feeling like I was somehow receiving telepathic communication from them, as almost, not necessarily I was communicating as though they were communicating with me and I was communicating with them. It's as though I was kind of like dropping in on their conversation, meaning I was tapping in on them and they were out and about in their day. So it was almost like I was seeing them, like I somehow projected my consciousness or my thoughts somewhere around them, so I was literally like picking up on their thoughts, and I could not necessarily see what they were doing, but it's almost like I could feel their thoughts, I could hear their thoughts, and almost like their thoughts became like a visual to me. It's almost like I could visualize their thoughts, therefore I could see what they were doing, and for some reason that is what got their attention. Not so much as I was like contacting them like, hey, Men in Black, what's up? No, it's just kind of wanting to see what they're about. I wanted to tap into their energy and see what they're doing in this world and kind of see if this theory actually is really true. And what I discovered is I tapped into their energy, and they're a small group of people, and they're like some sort of hybrid alien human race, something like that, and they're very secret. It's very, very hard to tap into their energy, because once they're aware of you, they really put this like shield around their energy, because they don't want you to tap into what they're doing and kind of retain the information that you get while you're tapping into their what they're doing, because whatever they're doing it's very advanced stuff, and And it really has to do with the planet. It really has to do with the shifting of the planet. And all of these changes that are going on, I feel like they have to do something with the biology of humans and species, and they also contribute to like ecosystem of like all over the world. But mainly I feel like their focus is, I don't really know. It's like I'm trying to tap into their energy right now, and I just feel like they're kind of putting a shield around themselves, because I don't understand why they don't want people to know what they're doing. But I feel like it's because of the fact that, as you know, we all know, there's many shifts happening right now. There's many shifts happening right now. And they're working through a lot of people. They're working through a lot of people. But it's kind of like, don't ask if you don't want to know. That sort of thing. And I feel like it has to do with the information. I feel like certain information would be very overwhelming for the human intellect. The human intellect as in, you know, the physical brain. The physical brain can only retain a certain amount of information. It has like a capacity limit. And these men in black, they are able to, what do you call it? I don't know what this is. There's a term for it, but be able to kind of bend their body where they can almost like their body, like, I don't know what it's called, like condenses on itself and it becomes like, I don't know, like a little light bulb, and then it just disappears. And then they can kind of shoot themselves anywhere, and they can actually transform their body. So really it feels like almost like their body isn't even like a human body. It's almost like a plasma thing that can just like, they're like shapeshifters, which is really interesting. Basically, my experience with them is me and my mom, you know, I was picking up from work and we were driving home, and I was just, you know, I was just telling her about these men in black and how I was telepathically tapping into them without them really being aware of it, and then it's kind of like you all of a sudden realize that they're aware of you and like, oh crap, you know, like you're just walked in, you were like spying on somebody's conversation and they find out that you've been spying on them and stuff. And my mom was getting actually very interested in it too, because she actually watched my video that I mentioned earlier in this video, of that person's experience when it came to the movie series they were going to put out that got canceled, that they believe was because the Men in Black canceled it. Because what I found out through my own tapping into their energy is they work through people, okay, and just like in the movie Men in Black, okay, with Will Smith and stuff, they can actually, they can cause almost like, what do you call, like you're spacing out, and it's almost like you space out and you forget, like, time. It's almost like you're forgetting time or something, because of the fact that they are working through people, okay, such as they're working people to create movies, you know, books, you know, even in, you know, politics, government, they're working through people to get out information, okay? And a lot of this, it comes through, like, what people say, just brilliant inspiration, that they just don't know where it comes from, and they do contribute to that. They are sharing ideas through channeling messages into people, particular people that are have the path of, you know, let's say, who are directors or screenplay writers or authors, government officials. So they're definitely channeling through these individuals, but at the same time, there's something about, there needs to be a precise gentleness. They're very much about gentleness progressing forward, because there's definitely realities that they're aware of. I like to say possible futures, like there's endless possible futures, and they're aware of so much more than what I could ever be aware of. And they're aware of the fact that Earth, okay, if it were to progress too fast, meaning, let's say that series was released about those UFOs and the UFO secrets and all that kind of stuff, and it would awaken people, it awakens people. Movies that are very much about things that get people think. It causes them to research, and research leads to discoveries, and discovery causes awakenings in people, okay? Expanding the mind, sort of thing. And if that would happen too fast, okay, meaning too many people are like waking up very quickly, or stuff is putting out to the mainstream through, film or novels, mainly film. They're very much have their hands in film, and also they are a big contributor to film, meaning they have a lot of money invested in films. So they really kind of have control over the films, because they're the ones that are dishing in all the money to make the films and stuff like that. They're big contributors. So they really focus on that, because that's what gets to the most amount of people, okay, and not just most amount of people are going to see it. It really has the most effect on the mind, because you have a visual, you have hearing, okay, and you just there's this, it really evokes the sort of, gets people like stirring inside. This stirring emotion is released when somebody is watching a movie. It's almost like they are, it kind of be like in a meditated state, sort of, depends on what kind of movie you're watching. If it's like a horror movie, or it's still, you're in this sort of trance state when you're watching a movie. I don't know if you guys ever experienced that, but when I'm watching a movie, especially at the movie theaters, I feel like I'm in this sort of like hypnotic trance state. I mean, I'm very focused on it, and that what stirs these emotions. It stirs them up because it's almost like you're in it, you're living it, you're experiencing it firsthand, like you are there. That's why it's important not to watch scary movies, because of that reason. Scary movies, it gets your emotions stirring, but it gets it in the way that creates fear in you, and then that fear gets you experiencing it. You're experiencing it through watching it in the movie, and then what happens is you can take that with you and then start experiencing like paranoia in your day-to-day life, because you have paranoia stirring in you. It's very important to really be very vigilant about what you're soaking in through your eyes, your ears. It's very, very important. That's why I don't watch much TV or don't watch any scary movies, because of the fact I don't like that stirring that happens inside of me when I watch a scary movie, that gives me this sort of paranoia thing going on within me. It's very temporary, but I just don't like it, because I'm like, well, I don't want, I don't want that sort of paranoia feeling stirring in me for days after watching that scary movie. Because what can happen is everything you're manifesting constantly. That's why you always have to check yourself to see what you're manifesting. Constantly check yourself, like every single day, because the mind has is such a powerful force, it's such a quick force, that anything you got stirring on in you, it becomes magnified when you begin to think about it, begin to let it sort of, when you begin to focus on it within you, okay? Especially things, like paranoia, like demons exist. When you focus on that, when you give energy to it by thinking of it, it becomes almost like it's manifesting, it's materializing. That's why you want to nip it in the bud before it becomes this materialized manifestation. While it's materializing, it's still like fluctuating, meaning it's still kind of, what do you call like a holograph that's kind of fading in and out, like it's a holograph in and out. It hasn't really come to a full like holographic structure yet. Like an image that is an image, like a full image is still kind of like fading in and out. And that is a full, like a full holograph. Hologram is like a full manifestation that's presenting external reality, and something materializing is that holograph coming to fruition. Okay, it's like a coming, it's still structuring its stuff, like the little pixels are still coming together. So that's why you kind of want to nip it in the bud when it comes to that, and really just stay focused on, like for me it's peace, and for me it's love. I stay focused on that. Okay, and I constantly am going through my internal mind, and I'm checking to see, okay, what are there things in me that, like, feelings, things I've watched, things, I've seen on television, especially television has, like I said, it's the most influential thing that we have, because it gets to the masses, and it's the most frequently thing that people do in their day-to-day life. TV watching. It definitely has a lot of influence, more so than really anything, really, because it's such a day-to-day thing. So it's constantly to check to see what's stirring inside of you. Is there like some sort of paranoia stirring inside of you from watching a movie, or is there something stirring inside of you of like empowerment? Because whatever's stirring on inside of you, it's really your focus of manifestation. So you really, if you got freedom senses stirring inside of you, feelings of security circling inside of you, feelings of joy and bliss, then that's going to really just materialize. Like I said, the little pixels are going to come together, and it's going to become a hologram, and your external reality for you to experience it. Really what you're doing, the mind just is manifesting so you can just experience the mind and the physical. Everything around you is just merely you physically experiencing the mind. When we think of the mind, we think of like neurons shooting around in your brain or something like that, like electricity shooting all around. That's when we think of the mind, the brain. But what I think of the mind is, I think of it as everything around me is merely my mind, is merely validating what my mind has thought about, is thinking about, what's going on in the mind, So if you have for example, if you have a really messy house, it's because your mind is really messy. If you have an organized house, a house that, it's a homey house. It's a smells good house. It's clean, and your mind is really clean. Everything around me is just merely like just me in a physical body getting to physically see my mind. Isn't that kind of awesome? To physically be able to see your mind, your consciousness, and physically begin to see your consciousness. That's kind of an interesting sort of perspective. But basically, back to the whole Men in Black. I was going off on a little tangent with my little discussion on TV and the mind. Well, that's really what the Men in Black are about. They're definitely into metaphysics, and definitely into dimensions and the bending and the fluctuating of time. They really understand time very thoroughly, more so than I would say any other alien being or whatever being or that are here, on planet Earth, the races, the civilizations from other planets. And they have almost like karma with this planet, because there was a time, like a possible outcome sort of thing. Like I said, there's multiple possible outcomes, and there was a possible outcome. They interfered with something, okay, and that led to humans, okay? Humans, they couldn't take it. I don't know what this is. I'm seeing it, but I don't know what this is. I'm just kind of channeling it. They couldn't handle it. Therefore, it caused the humans to lose their, like, emotion. like, these beings are very, like, detached. They're very, what you would call, humans would call them cold. They're intellectual, they are standoffish, they're not really, um, they go in groups, but they're not really interacting with each other the way we interact with our friends and family, like loving, compassionate, supportive, smiling and goofy and just lovey-dovey. Like, total humans are just the embodiment of, like, just nurturing, affection, and they're not like that with each other. They're kind of like, they go together, but they're not really, like, showing any affection toward each other. It's just totally emotionless. So what happened in this sort of future, this possible future, okay, that did happen, was that they thought it would be better, okay, they thought it would be better for the humans if they really didn't have emotion, because that emotion was caused, everything is just a reactional thing. Like, life is just a reactional experience. Like, it's like 99% of your reaction, okay, and like 1% of just action, okay. Action, there's like action, and then there's like reaction. And humans with this emotion, this reactional state, was causing this ego to just, you know people butting heads, and I don't know what time period it is. I don't know what I'm seeing and feeling, but I just know that they thought it would be better if maybe humans didn't have such an emotion, because that emotion they saw as getting the best of people, because sometimes they would let this emotion get the best of them in times of obstacles or times of challenge or difficulties, and they would become very reactional. Impulsive frustration can lead to reactional decision making, impulsiveness that really, I think, was very they saw it as very, like, destructional. So they did something to humans. They changed, like, their biological, like, their hormones or something like that. Hormones that's released in the brain that creates this sort of emotional reactional response to things such as pain. When you experience pain, you experience, like, anger or fear or frustration or bitterness, hatred. And when you experience love, you experience joy, bliss, excitement, patience. Those are like reactional sort of emotional responses to things that happen. Like, is the 1% of action, okay, which is something happens to you, and 99% is how are you going to respond to that, okay? That's the human emotion gives you endless possible ways of responding to something. That's what, and we were sort of, I feel like during this time we were very, still understanding the ego. That is when there was something, the ego was just birthed or something, and I feel like the ego is a contributor to, it's kind of like the human version of, like, emotional, like, emotions like angels experience. I don't even really know what this is when I'm feeling, but I feel like they were contribute to the establishment of the ego, because the ego is a template. It is a program that is brought here. When we think about the movies The Matrix, yeah, it's like a program. Okay, it's a program that was brought here to first it was to really, help mankind, in this transition from, this was in the period what I'm seeing, what is like the Homo sapiens. It was before that. There was this period gap when I'm seeing, like, skulls. Like, I'm seeing the trend, all of the evolution of the human skull. And what I'm seeing is that there's a gap between the skull looking this certain way, okay, like almost gorilla, I don't know, monkey, or I don't know what it is, just like a different sort of structure skull, and then there's like this gap, and then it jumps to the skull we have now. And there was this in-between thing, like this gap where how did this skull get from this to that? Because it seems like there should have been some steps in between that. It seems like it was kind of like a big quantum leap for it to get to, like, this to that. The brain be like this to that or something like that. And what they did was to make the human that we are now, they had to put in a program, a template that was the ego. And this ego thing was what really helped humans to be able to experience this sort of third dimensional reality. Ego is very much, it's a part of the third dimensional reality. It's almost like I'm seeing like it's keeping the third dimensional reality here, meaning it's keeping people in their bodies, okay? Because consciousness flows everywhere, but if there was no ego, there would be no cap. Therefore, peoples would be flowing out of their bodies everywhere, and they wouldn't be really having a 3D experience if their body's flowing everywhere, and then it just wouldn't be very balanced. There would be no groundedness in the 3D, because 3D is all about physical, almost like survival, animalistic, thing, very much physical. So, without the ego, there's nothing to contain it in this body, okay? So, it would just, it would just not be balanced. It wouldn't be a balanced 3D experience, because people would be probably checking out all the time. They would be just decide to leave their body because of the fact that they would be like, I'm this limitless being, and once they experience challenges or difficulties, they'd be like, well, I'm just going to leave this challenge or difficulties because I have the power to. So the ego kind of kept people in times of challenges or obstacles, it almost like forcing them to persevere through it, through the physical, okay, and not just to go leave your body and ascend to go elsewhere, with your infinite sort of mind, and kind of just not go through that, it would not go through that challenge or difficulties or obstacle. But so, people became more emotional, reactional, and they were just leading to a lot of challenges on a global standpoint when it came to humans' interactions with each other, because there was, animal reaction, okay, a very primitive reacting, and then it was kind of jumping to more of community, being more loving, being supportive, stepping outside of just the whole survival animal thing. And they found that people were becoming very emotional. Everybody was just, their hormones was just so unbalanced. They were just constantly lashing out at each other, this is mine, no, this is mine, and a bunch of kids running around, little kids all fighting over things that seem just irrelevant to those beings. So they gave them a little bit of took away their emotion. Okay, took away some emotion. Okay, because the ego was given. It really helped them to become more human. Step away from animal. I mean, we're all animals, but step away from the actual animal, physical, survival mode sort of thing that you see in lions and tigers and monkeys. And I feel like what they did is they took something from dolphins and whales. I feel like we have something in us that's similar to dolphins and whales. They gave us something from dolphins and from whales. Like a hormone, a DNA strand, something like that. That really altered the path of the humans, which really birthed the actual human. And before that was just animal or something like that. Like the Homo sapien, I think. So, okay, so basically there was no, what I'm picking up, this is all just me channeling this, by the way, it's just me kind of just talking and picking up what I pick up, because I feel like there's one being who's talking to me right now, telepathically, and he's a young man, and he, again, the beings, they look just white, pale white, and they just can't go in the sun because they're so pale white, almost like when you look at an albino person, kind of get that albino feel, even their eyes, white and kind of albino looking, and hair, no hair, and albino head, all white, and skull, a little slightly larger in the back, not as large, and almost I don't know, thinner, I don't know what I'm seeing. And their eyelashes are blonde, bleach blonde, eyebrows bleach blonde. It's really almost skin, their skin looks like it's bleached or something. And this young man, he's kind of like talking to me because the men in black don't really have any emotion, don't really experience any empathy, sympathy. Um, they don't really experience love or compassion or kindness. It's kind of just like totally just intellect, practicality, I guess. But this one is interesting because he is a hybrid. He's like an evolved Men in Black. He's an evolved Men in Black that is within him has like genes or something that is of like Lumerian or Lantian, um, that is making him different from the elders or different from the others because he has more of the emotional the emotional sort of hormone inside of him that helps him to become more compassionate towards humans. Well, the others are very just they're mission driven. They're mission driven. They're very determined driven, and they're very much about just balance. Like everything needs to be balanced, and they want to. That's why they kind of took away emotions that led to the destruction of humans, like the death of humans, because they saw that the humans were just like not even functioning. It was kind of just like this place was not even becoming what it was designed to become. This planet is designed to become a playground, like it is right now. You have just basically just a big place for like entrepreneurs, innovators, people who want to create. And that was the original template for the humans, meaning that was to the basis. The core, almost like agreement, was that the humans, this would be a playground for the humans to create. The freedom to create as they please. And that wasn't happening when they took away our emotions. We were not doing anything, you know. We had an ego, so we were contained within our body. We're grounded in our body, so we weren't floating everywhere. But then we were just, at the same time, it just wasn't a good mix. It wasn't a good mix to have that ego and then at the same time have this emotional hormone taken from us. Because the ego is about limitation, while the emotion, that emotional hormone that they gave from us from the dolphins and whales, is about exploration and about freedom. So that mixture of the two, you had like limitation ego that kept us contained in the body, and then we had this whole dolphin whale hormone that is about freedom. So that created a good balance, but taking away that emotional kind of created this feeling of just like totally being limited. Like you would be limited with yourself, meaning there was like people very cold with each other, had a lot of boundaries, a lot of restrictions, and they were just kind of almost like sitting in their castle walls, and they weren't trying to explore out. They weren't trying to explore anywhere because they didn't have that emotional drive. You know, emotions give you drive, they give you passion, they give you desire, they give you will and strength and confidence and all these emotions. So there was the destruction of the humans. Slowly humans were leaving the planet on a massive sort of scale because of the fact that it was like a dud planet. This was becoming like a dud. I don't know what to say, like a dud planet. So that was a little background story when it comes to these men in black. And also they took away their sort of emotions. That's why they kind of seem emotionless, because of the fact that the emotion, it can be very powerful, but it can also be persuasive and kind of, they see it as like persuasive as in like distractions, because of the fact that there's so much energy circling around the planet, there's so many people's thoughts, and there's so, like I said, there's endless amount of like reactional responses to something that happens in your life. You know, like so many, and they could feel all of that because when they are very stepped into the human emotion, have this sensitivity to all things, such as we have sensitivity to all this planet. Therefore, it was like they couldn't really focus because our sensitivity, they took it to another level because they know all things. So they were just overwhelmed, tapping into too many things at once, and that too many things on this planet at once, which it's just too much to hear all of that, because the human emotion caused them to be connected to everybody's human emotion, and therefore, like, experiencing hate, love, frustration, fear, pride, anger, hate, jealous, I don't know, just all of the emotions at once was just, like, total, like, mind-blowingly just, too much, took up too much of their mental space. So they kind of had to detach from that. They're cutting their emotional sort of human emotional human thing. So, basically, my experience was that me and my mom, we were talking about them in the car, and I was telling her, like, they're telepathically talking to me, and I even told her, I was like, in the car, they were telepathically communicating me, and how they don't really like to be disturbed, meaning they don't like people to kind of, like, spy on them while they're doing their own thing, because they're doing a lot of things to help the planet. They're researching a lot of things, they're studying things, and they're trying to get humans to the next evolution, meaning something about the actual biology of the human is going to change through their sort of efforts. I don't know what that means, but I guess somehow the human body is going to shift, like, like hybrid bodies or something, have something different. So, what happened was that night, or that, I don't know, early morning, we got this bang at the door. Loudest bang. I was freaked out. I heard it. Nobody's ever knocked on our door at like 1 a.m. ever. Except in our old apartment, some drunk guy, but he was knocking like a drunk person, and I knew he was drunk, and I, took him home and stuff like that. And because he lived like right upstairs in our apartment complex, so I knew who he was and stuff. And this was loud. It was one bang too. It was just like, pow. And I remember I was, like, waking up, and then my mom, I know she got out of bed because, she wanted to make sure nobody's trying to get in. And our dog, he usually would bark, go to the door and just start barking. He went on the couch. He didn't even bark. He went on the couch. He wouldn't do anything. And then my mom, she said she went to the door, but she was kind of, like, a little bit nervous. She said she felt really nervous for some reason. Not because, she thought that maybe someone was trying to break in, but because there's just an uneasiness feeling that is different from the feeling you get when you think somebody's trying to get in your house or something. It sounds like an intense feeling. Like, it's like she knew. Because her first thought was, like, Men in Black. That was her first thought. That's why she was nervous, because she was thinking Men in Black. And me, my first thought was that too. I was thinking Men in Black. And then what happened was, just yesterday, my mom researched Men in Black knocking at door, and we found all of these experiences of people researching Men in Black, and then all of a sudden getting a loud bang on their door the next day. And we were like, oh my god. I was like, I can't believe people have knocked on their doors. I thought that was just, maybe I was just thinking it was somebody else. Maybe it was just, like, the mailman or a stranger who knocked on the door, but it was loud. Like, one loud bang just seemed really abnormal for a stranger or something like that. And it was really, really loud. Like, strong knock. And I knew it was them. I don't know how, I don't know why I knew it was them. I just knew, because that was the first thought that came to me, and that was the first thought that came to my mom's too when she walked to the door. She didn't even look through the pee hole because she thought she was going to see a man when she looked through the pee hole. That's what she told me. She thought she was going to see a man looking through the pee hole. And maybe it's glad she didn't, because if she intuitively thought there was a man standing on the other side of the door, there probably was. Just guessing, because of all the feelings we were getting when that bang happened. Even our dog was sensing something very strange and abnormal. That's what you get when you feel the Men in Black. You feel something strange and abnormal. You don't know what it is. You can't explain it, but you know that it is beyond anything that you've experienced, like, on Earth. And they, like I said, they're just aware of these time zones, and that's why they're really trying to help us to to transform ourselves in a very graceful and gentle way, because of the fact they've already seen that possible outcome where we literally can't take it, we're overwhelmed, and we just our, like, almost like our brains fry, because I said our brain is able to, like, hold certain things, um, certain things on, because the brain is still, it just needs a gentle sort of push into a new direction, to the evolving of the brain. It can't just happen all at once, because it's just too much. It's just too much, and the body will kind of collapse on itself and shut down on itself. And then, worldwide, we have people's bodies shutting down. And then, what happens when people's bodies shut down? This world, people leave their bodies, and they send out of this plane. And we've worked really hard to create this 3D plane, meaning physical. 3D is about physical. We wanted to experience, the goal of Earth is experiencing. Okay, we wanted to experience the mind in the physical. Okay, the mind in the physical. It's kind of interesting because we wanted to experience infinite freedom in a world where we have this template, such as the ego, that is about containment. It is about limitation, okay? Because you're very limited. You can't jump off a building. You will hit the floor and you'll die. Okay, that's a limitation. We have limitations. You can't, go skiing just, down this big slope. If you don't know how to ski, you're going to hit a tree and you're going to die. Limitation. So it's kind of interesting because it gives us this interesting sort of experience as a soul, this interesting sort of playground. Like I said, it's meant to be a playground. It is a playground. And it took a lot of sort of effort, constant effort of trying different things to get the perfect sort of ingredients for the soul, not the soul, but the soul contained in the body, meaning perfect ingredients for this sort of reality, the perfect templates for this reality. Okay, but now we're wanting to structure it. It got a little bit loose, meaning people's emotions were getting a little loose, and then we're just kind of making storylines, and it's getting a little out of hand because that now that you have these people are manifesting like these illusionary things such as demons and all that stuff, like Catholic religion. There's such thing as hell, and that is just all of the imagination going in all these sort of different directions. But now we want it more focused, okay, more focused and more on things that are more tapped in with the universal energy of all, things that are more of joy and bliss, rather than just, letting the mind manifest things that are just a product of the ego, okay, like paranoia, not a product of the soul itself and the soul's consciousness. So it's like clearing away all that fog stuff, so we can begin to manifest actual things that we desire on a conscious level, and not just manifest, and not just this manifest like paranoia or greed or something like that, because of the fact that, during our period of reactional state when we're imbalanced with it, we we're just kind of like we're children. We didn't know how to react. So we were kind of like running around, like doing as we please to each other. And probably even what they call it, killing each other and stuff like that. Very in an animal sort of way, okay? For sensitive souls like us, that's what created the foundation for fear and anxiety, which is the survival, when we were in the very survival mode. Running around, protecting ourselves, killing each other for meat or something, or food. So that's still with us. That primitive thing of paranoia and fear is still with us, even though we're not in that sort of primitive state anymore. It's still with us because we've kind of carried it with us. It's like luggage we've carried with us from the thousands of years. We've carried it as humans, and we don't need it anymore. So we're slowly getting rid of it, but we're slowly, because we can't come from fear to infinity in overnight. It would be too overwhelming, because the brain has gotten accustomed to fear being existing in the mind. So it would be too much for the actual physical body to handle. Like I said, it would shut down. Okay, so it needs to be a gentle evolution of this, getting rid of this fear into coming to infinite love and seeing all is connected to one another. in our animal sort of primitive state, we saw people as disconnected, meaning you can't trust, I can't trust you, I can't trust you because you'll try to steal my food or rape my woman or something like that. Animalistic, like very primitive, very to the very basic establishment of the human, the human physical. That's how we had to start for some reason. The physical, we needed to have just an animal, wasn't really conscious, and then we slowly evolved, very slowly, just like we're slowly evolving to where we probably can shapeshift our own physical bodies, which maybe would happen in 2 centuries, who knows. It's a slow evolution, okay, because with the physical 3D, you have this density, okay, so you need to be able to move things in a slower motion, because if you can really materialize and manifest anything you want in the higher realms. You can even manifest the actual body. You can manifest your body as a white woman, a black woman, an Asian man, and just do it like that. But in this 3D dimension, it's more of, there's like steps you have to do, because the density requires, especially the density of this particular system that we have on Earth, okay, this density really requires that you have a physical first, okay, and that's what happened with Lemuria and Atlantis. It fell because of the fact that we were doing all these things at once, and literally the land couldn't take it, because we were 3D, but we were almost like 20D, sort of trying to jump from 3D to 20D, and it was just not working. So that was just a little story about the Men in Black experience that I've had, and a little channel messages about them and what they're about, why they're here, kind of a little about who they are as a person. Just trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, it's just really, they're really tap into you when you really think of them. So when you research sort of aliens, or it could be aliens, could be UFOs, it could be the Men in Black, and you'll begin to tap into their energy, you'll feel their energy, and then they'll begin to tap into you. But they want people very focused, and they don't want people to get distracted by all these time things, like metaphysics, like time things, because they're working on Earth. They want Earth to get to a particular time, like a possible future. There's this one particular possible future. It's almost like, imagine there's like 1,000 parallel sort of possible future, and they want us down this particular one, and they don't want people, you and I, to tap into them, because then you're going to begin to tap into all these other possible futures, and being humans, it would be too much for us to handle. What human could watch the destruction of the planet? Meaning, the planet dying could be for various reasons, and all possible sort of different reasons. No, humans wouldn't be able to take that. I wouldn't be able to take that. That's what they say. It's a kind of a need to know. Like, what? Don't ask if you don't want to know. And I don't want to know that there's possible futures of the Earth, humans dying, or something like that. I don't want to know that possible future. I just want to know those other possible futures. Or I don't even really want to know those possible futures. I just want to just be focused on how I can get to the highest octave, which is like the 20D, and the highest octave where everything transitions in a smooth way and with less complications as possible. So that was just me giving a little discussion about these beings, and I hope you found this video insightful and interesting. I know this is a very interesting topic. I don't really talk about aliens so much, but I felt there was something here that I needed to express. So, okay, bye everyone.